Here's why you play Zhuxin, the beacon of spirits in the mid lane. First off, she has amazing zoning capabilities, allowing her to control large areas of the battlefield while poking at enemy. Her ability to stack debuffs makes her a serious threat during prolonged engagements, as she can eventually crowd control multiple enemies at once. Zhuxin also excels in team fights, where her area damage and crowd control allows her to disrupt enemy positioning. However, she is very mana dependent, meaning that poor resource management can leave her vulnerable, and she requires good positioning discipline due to her relatively low mobility. Zhuxin's passive Crimson Butterflies converts the mana she spends on her second skill into Crimson Butterflies. These butterflies restore her mana over time after channeling, helping her maintain pressure. This passive also provides great synergy with her skills, making her resource efficient in longer fights. Zhuxin's first skill, Fluttering Grace, releases magic in a fan-shaped area, dealing damage and applying Soul Snare stack to enemies. It also slows enemies while granting her a bonus movement speed. This skill is useful for poking and kiting enemies in the laning phase or in team fights. Zhuxin's second skill, Lantern Flare, allows her to control her Spirit Lantern, dealing continuous damage in the area and applying Soul Snare stacks. If an enemy accumulates 10 stacks, they will be airborne and then thrown to a target location. This skill excels in zoning, trapping enemies, and disrupting team fight, especially when used to reposition enemies. Zhuxin's ultimate, Crimson Beacon, allows her to blink to her target location, dealing magic damage in the field around her and stacking Soul Snare on enemies. The skill gives her mobility and a shield, making it great for engage or escape tool during fights. The lingering field also allows for sustained damage and additional crowd control. In team fights, use Zhuxin's ultimate to blink into a good position, then follow up with her first skill into slow enemies and kite them around. Channel her second skill to apply Soul Snare stacks from a distance. Once an enemy accumulates enough stacks, throw them to disrupt their positioning. This combo allows for strong zoning and crowd control. Moving on to builds, I usually go Demon Boots, Clock of Destiny, Wishing Lantern, Ice Queen 1, Glowing 1, and Divine Glaive. These are the emblems that go along with this build. For battle spells, consider Flicker or Sprint for added mobility and repositioning, or Flame Shot for extra poke and finish off low health opponents. Zhuxin performs well against heroes with limited mobility, such as stationary mages and marksmen, as she can easily apply Soul Snare stacks to lock them down. However, she struggles against high mobility assassins or heroes with burst damage like Link or Hayabusa, who can dodge her skill combos and exploit her low mobility. You should upgrade her second skill first, as it provides the most utility for zoning and crowd control. Prioritize upgrading it with the first skill as a backup for added damage and slow, and always upgrade her ultimate whenever available. Zhuxin excels in team fights by controlling the battlefield from a distance. Make sure to use her second skill zoning ability to control enemy movements, forcing them into bad positions. Her ultimate provides both offensive and defensive utility, so use it wisely to engage or escape. Managing her mana is key. Utilize her passive to keep regenerating mana and remain relevant in prolonged fights. Positioning is crucial, as Zhuxin lacks mobility outside of her ultimate, so always stay at the back line and kite with your first skill to stay safe. Her crowd control can easily turn the tide of battle, especially when you manage to throw enemies into unfavorable positions.